Hello. Hello. Okay, yeah, that's recording. Alrighty.
All right.
Cool.
So let's get into this real quick. You want to talk
Yeah,
about kind of your expectations and what all's been going on with your first book release?
sure. Um, so over the last year, I've been working on my book, The Vacation Planet, and it's a cyberpunk piece that I wrote. I tried to really encapture the nitty grittiness of how an overcrowded city would really be. When I lived in Colorado, I lived in a. Well, I'll just say that the drug problem was so bad that people thought I was a cop because I was the only person who didn't smoke meth with them. So, so I took a lot of life experiences from that, and I kind of created my own setting using the things I learned from living in a really bad part of town. Um, that kind of just went off of that. Um, and so basically, it follows three characters who are security for hire. They're not like hitmen or anything. They just do basic security. So if you think you're doing something shady, like in the beginning, there's a guy who's transporting like illegal stuff. Their whole job is to make sure that it's done safely, so that the guy doesn't go to jail. So that's kind of what their job is. And partway through, they're put on a task to. There's a guy who's a thief, so he breaks and enters into a building. And so they're just guarding him to make sure he's okay. And then while the guy's in the building, they discover a conspiracy to. I say they, but the alien race has a conspiracy to wipe out the rest of the human race. The whole concept is aliens discover Earth and they turn it to a vacation hotspot. So if you're like a wealthy, well-off alien, you go to Earth for a vacation. It's kind of like if we went to Cancun or something. So they come to Earth and they put humans in these giant, overcrowded cities. That's the setting right there.
Going into a category like cyberpunk, how have sales and stuff gone for you?
Well, it's not crazy right now, but I did have a lot of support from a lot of people. People who've been following my progress on social media and such. And one of the things that, I've run into is, like, people are coming out of the woodwork saying, oh man, this is so cool. Like, complete strangers have left reviews on it on Amazon, like really good reviews. And I think that was the part that caught me by surprise the most, because I wasn't really expecting much out of it, to be completely honest. But people just really started liking it, and that really got me motivated to continue.
It's exciting.
With my new projects. Yeah. Extremely. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting much with Cyberpunk, but I did notice that there's a huge craze over the new video game coming out in the next year or two called Cyberpunk 2077. So one of the things that I was hoping for was, in the next couple of years, people will take more of an interest in it as their moods change towards like being excited about that really big game coming out. So I was hoping that maybe my book would come up in their search when they search for something Cyberpunk to whet their appetite until that game comes out.
And I've been one for a long
that's one
time.
of
I can say there's a lot of stuff that gets called cyberpunk that isn't. So when there's something that is actual cyberpunk and is being marketed as cyberpunk, they're like, people that are into that will kind of flock around it. And I can say your book is actual cyberpunk. So, I've been playing Shadowrun since I was a kid.
I appreciate that.
It doesn't get more cyberpunk than the Shadowrun games. So.
Yeah.
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 That's pretty cool.
You sent it to me.
So you've had a chance to read it?
Joe's being forgetful.
Oh, sweet. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, I get pretty forgetful myself. So that's kind of what the big deal is in my life at the moment. I'm working on a new project right now. Still keeping a little bit of it under wraps, except for like a close network of people know about it. Because I don't want people to be expecting one thing and then that gives them something different. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be coming up with something new, because I've gained a lot of momentum from this, and knowing that I personally can do this has really motivated me to go through the process again. And now that I've gone through the process, I'm less afraid to do it. So I'm like pretty psyched to keep going with this stuff.
Where it's basically you get like a burst of joy from finishing a project and seeing it all the way through. And now I can't think of what it is. I heard it on Joanna Penn's podcast. She talks about like healthy writing and stuff like that. Yeah, it'll come back to me, I'm sure, as soon as we finish this.
That's pretty cool. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts myself, but I do watch so much YouTube. It's probably unhealthy how much YouTube I watch, but I watch a lot of how-to stuff. Like I'm always learning. I'm always finding something new I can learn about. There's a bunch of writers and authors out there that I follow on YouTube who give lots of advice, and their advice is really helpful.
I've been learning more and more that there are actual writers and stuff like on YouTube. Because I remember when I remember a couple years ago I was looking for them on there, and all I found was like teenagers that read books and then talked about the books, but they were all like YA romance books.
Yep. Yeah, they're like 16-year-olds, and they're like, hey, so I published something through Amazon, and these are all these young adult fiction books I read.
Just reading and then having like flame wars, and I was like, I'm too old to try to watch this stuff.
Yeah. Right now I'm looking up, so I mentioned earlier before we started recording, Kim Chance. She wrote something called The Keeper, and it's like a fantasy kind of deal. She's really talented. Like it's literally her job to teach people English, because she's a school English teacher. I also follow Jenna Marici. I'm so sorry, Jenna, if I mispronounced that. But yeah, she's really talented. Vivian Reyes, and Kristen Martin. All of them are very talented vloggers, and they each give me a lot of really good advice. A lot of what I picked up, though, came from way back in the day when the internet first started being a thing. I was following forums on a forum site for writers, and there's this one dude named Sharky, and he was ruthless. Absolutely ruthless. Like, little teenage angsty me would post something that I was proud of, and he would just rip it to shreds. But this went on for years, and I think I was like 18 or 19. I finally posted something where he was like, this is okay. Which, in like his...
Yeah.
If you knew him, you'd be like, oh my god, he loves that! So, I got to the point I am now from people constantly ripping my stuff to pieces. So I'm a little more cautious about making something just so. And I've also read a lot. I mean, not in the last couple of years. I mean, since I've had kids, it's harder to read more often. But I would consider myself really well read. And Stephen King's right when he says, if you don't read, you don't have the tools to write. So that's definitely a thing. Like, when I read a book... I'll see something that's phrased a certain way and go, wow, that is really well phrased, or like a metaphor will just stand out to me or something, and I'll be like, that's perfect. I gotta use something like that.
See, I'm on the opposite
so
end.
That's just kind of I'm rambling now, but
and I'm like, man, this got published. I can write anything.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
I just read.
Yeah, you also need to know what bad writing looks like too.
368. which is like this weird Western series that's
Mm-hmm.
like, I didn't realize it was like Western, but also like men's erotica, kind of like halfway through. Because, like, basically the gunsmith of every book just gets laid, like, at least 3 times. Like, I'm sure whoever the publisher was when they were handing out the book Bible, because usually, like, a lot of these long-running pulp series, they get, like, 4 or 5 writers that write all the books. I'm sure they're like, all right, the gunsmith has to have sex at least 3 times
Yep.
in every book. Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird series.
Oh, God.
But whatever. I get them in,
Oh.
like, the fill-up boxes.
No,
I'm like,
no.
this is not Louis L'Amour, that's for damn sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking of the book that I've only put down one book because I didn't like the reading. I didn't like the writing of it so much. I've only done that once, and that was with. I found some books out there that are written by very popular authors, and then I read them, and I think to myself, see, it's definitely not what you know, it's who you know. That's what it definitely comes down to. But I read this one author who, it's called The Black Tattoo. I'm not here to like bash on people or anything like that, but I feel like he could have done his research a little bit better. My dad's been a blacksmith all my life. Like, since I was like 3 years old, my dad's worked out of a blacksmith shop making knives and recreating old stuff and like making not sculptures but like building stuff. Like, he took a piston head and he turned it into a freaking rose without like welding anything together. In one single piece he turned it into a rose. Like, my dad's a pretty talented blacksmith, and I grew up around that stuff a lot.
I feel like
And there's this, what's
I
that?
guess we shouldn't give people leeway for that, but without going to like too much of a tangent, I mean, I feel like, because I do it sometimes when I write too, where you just kind of get like the glossary definition of a skill, and then you don't go past that. Because like I see it a lot with my friends who are like, like really into guns and stuff.
Oh.
And they'll show it on like TV or something where some guy walks into like a Gander Mountain or I don't know what you have in Maine, like whatever, like a Dick's Sporting Goods, and then leaves in 2 minutes with a full automatic gun that looks like a pump shotgun that somehow shoots like.
Yeah, it takes like 2 weeks to get a gun
It's
in
a
Maine.
little
So
shorter, but you gotta come in with like your passport, your birth certificate, and like 80 other forms of ID.
yeah.
But you're also not living with a machine gun.
It's pretty strict, but
It's a class 3 weapon.
yeah,
permit.
exactly.
Yeah,
you
if
need
you're
a special
writer and
license for
listening,
that too.
It's a class 3 weapon.
Yeah,
permit.
class 3.
Like, and it takes it takes years. My
You
buddy
need to
got
work
his
your ass
class
off for
2
that.
so he can have silencers.
Yeah.
And I think that took him almost 2 years to get. Because you gotta have like background checks out the ass.
Wow.
But
yeah.
I think they too much of a
Yeah. But a big part of it, like it was a magic system. It was a modern day magic. It takes place in London, and the book's by Seth Earnhardt. And
I don't know.
like
for a
I don't
book
I don't
20
have
years
any
ago,
discontent
you
for Seth
remembered way
himself.
more
Like I
than
think.
would.
So the way that it worked, so he had a magic system, and he had like a
Was it a
chosen
farm
one
boy?
kind of thing. Which, if you want to do the chosen one kind of stuff, that's fine. It's just not my thing, my scene to start with. Because I feel like the chosen one thing can kind of be a cop out. Because if you have a chosen one theme, then the way it usually there's so many cliches that can fall into place by doing this. You have this person who's like a teenager or something, and they're like, oh, there's no way I'm the chosen one, and then a really old man comes out of nowhere, becomes a mentor, trains this kid, but this kid's being a dickhead, and then the mentor is like this really gruff old guy who's like, you need to be better at this. And then the mentor ends up giving his life for the kid, and then it goes into the second book.
You're forgetting
That's usually
that the bad
the
guy
formula
was
of
called
chosen
Dark
one stuff that
something.
I've seen, so I try to... Yeah, like the bad guy is like all black and red and like so obviously a bad guy. Like his only
Can you please stop
his
saying
only
both Star
motivation
Wars and
is
Aragon
to
at
kill the
same time?
teenager. So
And every other book I think I read growing up.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, that's how Chosen One stories work, and I try to avoid that. But so anyways, a big part of it is he has to create this. It's like a fantasy sword, and like the sword gives him special abilities, and he goes to this master blacksmith who creates swords, and they're like the best in the world kind of deal. And I'm like, okay, cool, I can get behind that. Let's see how this works. So formaldehyde can make your steel stronger. How he uses formaldehyde is really not cool, because what he does is yeah.
Formaldehyde is very bad for you. Don't get it on your skin, in your mouth, in your eyes, and don't inhale it. Continue.
Yep. So what this dude does is he creates this beautiful, strong sword, and then he grinds it down into like little teeny weeny pieces. Like he just takes this big, awesome sword and just like grinds the shit out of it. And so after he does that, he has like piles of like shrapnel, and basically like powdered sword. And so what he does is he puts it in, they live in like the city, and they have pigeons on the roof. So what they do is they take these pieces of fucking metal and they put it into the pigeon food, and the pigeons eat it. And then his whole point is, well, the pigeons will process the steel inside their tummies and make it stronger steel. So when they shit it out, we'll collect it and make a stronger sword. And we do this like 5 times in a row. And I'm like, hey, can I just stop for a second here? So for starters, there's way easier ways to get formaldehyde. Secondly, you better start with a really, really big sword, because half of those pieces are not coming out of the pigeon. And thirdly, you're putting steel splinters inside pigeons. Like that is going to they're going to kill your pigeons from internal bleeding, because they're cutting them up inside. And after that scene, up to that scene, there was a sentence that stuck out to me. It said, "The sound was indescribable, like breaking glass." And I'm like,
I really hated
guy, what are you doing?
And Joe's harbored like
he hated pigeons. So he
for this one scene.
Oh my god, so that one scene with the pigeons, like, I folded the book, without putting the bookmark in, I just folded it closed, I set it aside, and then this was before work. I used to read a half hour before work started. Yay, anxiety, showing up early. So I closed the book, I put it aside calmly, and then I said to myself, I think I should find a different book to read. So what I did is I ended up donating that book. I never donate my books because, like, I like collecting them when I'm done too. It's just kind of like a trophy case. Yeah. Like I have these Stephen King novels back here, and I like to collect all of them together, just to, there's something that about in Maine specifically that I found after living in Colorado. People in Maine, if they have a bookcase, they better know almost everything about the books on those shelves, because people in Maine read a lot. So that's basically, yeah. At any rate, that's the one book I put down, mostly because I couldn't get past a couple of things, but I felt like the pigeon thing was reason enough for me to put it down, because, like, magic or not, I feel like they could have gone about it a much different way, because this was this guy's trade secret, was feeding pigeons steel splinters. So
definitely unique, I think, maybe, if that's what they were going for. But let's get back to your own stuff. Why don't you talk about the panel you set on and where it was at?
Yeah, I went to the Great Falls Comic Expo in Lewiston, Maine last weekend. And I was originally helping out another author. He founded the Horror Writers of Maine, Dwayne Cauffill. and he kind of separated from the group because of health issues. But he's doing his own thing now. He's promoting his own work. So I thought, well, I can go there and I'll help him out, and I'll help him with his table and sell his books with him. And maybe I'll sell a few of my own while I'm there. And he actually had a hour-long panel set up, and he sat at the panel, and he gave a lot of information about his book, and there was like a bunch of teenagers in the crowd there, and like it was an hour-long panel, and he turns to me, and he's like, all right, now I'm going to turn it over to Joe. He'll take some questions now. And I was like, what? So I was just sitting there supporting him. I wasn't expecting that, so... but I was asked a lot of questions that I was asking when I was those people's ages, and it was really cool. Like, it was a really defining moment in my life to be in a position where I can give people advice on writing, so that was pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, so the Vacation Planet, I ended up selling 2 copies, and I traded a 3rd copy for some artwork because it's a con and you gotta get cool stuff. And I made some really good connections there. I think I found my cover artist for my next novel coming out in the next couple of years, so I'm pretty excited about that. Oh, definitely. I made so many really good connections that I think that it's vital to a self-published author's writing career by making appearances in public avenues, or revenues, in public revenues, so that you can kind of get your name out there. Even if you don't sell anything, there's always something to do when you're there. You can make, you can make contact with other people. You can get in touch with artists. You can trade books for other people's books, which is, I think, a pretty cool system. Like, there's something really homey about it. Like, hey, I'll give you a book I wrote if you give me a book you wrote. And it's just like a really cool. Like, it's like a brotherhood. Like, if you're a writer, you're like part of this brotherhood of understanding. Because writers are a different breed. They notice things that other people don't notice. They see things in a different light. And the fact that when you meet someone else who has that mindset, it's just a really good feeling.
Yeah, I should probably start going to...
That's why I got in touch with you again.
Talk to other writers more.
Yeah.
So what Joe's saying is we all need to stop being such introverts.
Yeah, that's a struggle for sure. Yeah, so what was, tell me about what you've been doing with your writing projects for a while, or last bit. I've been ranting so much and losing my voice, so I'll let you talk for a second.
I wrote a book about sharks. It's kind of a rip-off of Jaws called Float. And then I wrote a shorter thing called The Legend of Beacon Swamp, which is more aimed at the Goosebumps crowd. And then I wrote another book called Wolfsbane, which is werewolf horror, which I thought would be kind of a big deal. Was not enough romance in my book. Those are most of the reviews it has. Because I didn't realize this was a horror novel.
Oh my god. But Jacob Payton, where's the love triangle?
But yeah. So that's pretty much where I'm at. The biggest problem I have, and we talked about this earlier, is I finish things and then don't edit them and go on to start new things. So basically I'm sitting on a bunch of novels that I need to get out, and probably will, hopefully before the first of the year, I'll get all that stuff out. But other than that, I've just been growing my mailing list, which is something I should have been doing for a while. I signed up for, now I'm gonna blank on his name. Oh, Mark Dawson's course. He has that course for self-published authors. I'm sure you've seen it in the 20 books to 50K being thrown around. And
yep. Which is a really great Facebook page, by the way. If you are in any aspect of writing anywhere, I would highly recommend trying to get into that group. That's actually where I met my editor.
great resources there.
So it's super helpful. That
Way better
it's
than
so
Google.
many resources. Everyone wants to help you. It's really cool.
I think random company in Canada or something that flips websites. Yeah, no, it's something weird. I saw it. David Gaughran shared a thing, I think. Basically, if I don't know, there's like a whole thing. Anyone that wants to look into it can look into it. But I guess they're going to be like selling your data now. So a lot of people are getting away from Kboard, which was kind of a toxic. I never really posted there. It was so toxic. I just read what I could. But yeah, 20 books, 50K is good. No, you're good.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you, but go ahead.
We're good. Then, yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing.
Yeah.
Just growing that out. And then October 6th, I'm going to be selling some books in person. Then, like I said, I just got to get everything else out. So what are your plans for, so you are doing NaNoWriMo this year?
Yeah. Yeah, NaNoWriMo started a thing which is aggravating because, the aggravating thing that they added is, it gives you a streak now. It gives you a streak of how many years in a row you've done it. And now I'm like 5 or 6 years into that streak. And I'm like, damn it, I have to do it every year now. Because the streak will start from the beginning if I skip a year. And that'll make me mad.
NaNoWriMo for keeping my career on track.
And, right? You dicks. I'm just kidding. They're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah, so I actually have a new job. I don't work in the middle of the day anymore. I'm going to be starting a new job in the next couple of weeks. And it's a security position for a drug rehabilitation center. Where I'll be basically just a security guard there. And it goes from 5 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon, or 2 in the afternoon. So like the rest of the day, I can go to the gym, and I can work on my project and not be stressed out about, oh fuck, I only have an hour before work starts, which is something that's super stressful for me. If you start a job in the middle of the day, your whole motivation to doing anything that day is gone because you have like 4 hours to do everything you need to get done on this timeline. Because if you don't do it in that timeline, you're going to be late for work.
I know what you're talking about.
So you're all fucking stressed out. So I'm excited about doing something like, I can do something early in the morning, get that done, and then I can move on with the rest of the stuff that I have wanted to do with my life.
Are
So
you thinking any series
I'm excited
down the
about
line?
that.
Are you gonna just keep doing like one-offs?
I really want to do all of the one-offs that I have. I have like this list of all these stories that I want to get to, and I want to get through all of them. And once I get to the end of them, I'm in a really good mindset of like, don't start anything new. Because I have like a few things where I have all the plots built out and everything on paper.
Yeah.
But it's not written yet. So I'm going to deal with that, and then I'll deal with new projects or sequels or something like that. There's a couple of sequels coming up for different things of those projects. But for now, I want to do like the Stephen King thing and just create a bunch of one-offs. And then if I start running out of ideas or something, that's when I'll start doing sequels to stuff. I've already gotten so much feedback on the Vacation Planet, 'cause they're like, dude, you need to create a sequel. And I'm like, I'm scared because now I need to live up to my first expectations. So, and series typically go for 3 books now, so I can't, if you're going to make a middle book, your middle book has to be spot on, because that's usually the least favorite book. I don't know how J.K. Rowling did it. I really don't, because every one of her books is captivating. And, like, you gotta reach that level, like what she did, which is, like, reach that same level and meet the expectation as the first book.
This just lost us all our listeners right there.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Not a
That's
Harry
fine.
Potter fan. I like the movies. But the books were... Go read the Books of Magic comics and come back to me. Yeah. The same kid is all I'm saying. Neil Gaiman did it first. Books of Magic is a comic series.
What's that book? What's that series called?
About this kid with a wore glasses, had dark hair, had a bad living situation in England, discovers he has magic at the age of 12. Kind of a big comic series across the pond.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then 10 years later,
Holy
J.K.
fuck.
Rowling writes a book. Pretty similar. Same goofy looking kid. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's cool. Oh, there's a magic school.
Wow.
Guess what was in the series?
Well, that's new. I didn't know about
Guess what
that.
kid had to save at some point. It was on, I think, a different dimension, though.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, he also teamed up with John Constantine at one point in the rest of the Trench Coat game. Yeah. Yeah, good series.
What the fuck? No way!
Yeah.
Constantine.
Comic book
Oh
fans out there,
god,
they
so
just relaunched John
such a strong
Constantine back from
character
the dead.
that I
He's
love.
no longer New 52, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's my little bit of nerddom over here.
Yeah. That's okay. John Constantine is like one of my favorite fictional characters of all time, so you're good. I loved him because in the movie specifically, with Keanu Reeves, who is a vampire, we all know that. He will never die because he's just never ages. So, yeah. So he, the thing that I loved about his character in that movie is he had, if you look at smoking in movies, good example, smoking in movies. The movie Avatar starts off with like, what's her name? The actress that plays the chick who's smoking a lot and hates Jake. What's her name is? Yeah, I'm throwing a blank right now, but basically, it starts off really strong where she's smoking in every scene, and then it just kind of fades out. Like, a third of the way through the movie, she just, fades out with the smoking thing. And I don't see that as a character development thing, because if you have a smoking habit that's really strong, you don't just, go through an emotional experience and smoke less. If anything, she should be smoking more at the end of that movie, because of all the shit she was going through. So, with John Constantine, there was that constance. Like, if you have a character that has a habit of any kind, whether it's, touching his ear, or playing with his hair, or touching the beard, or he drinks all of his drinks by, circling the rim of the glass with his finger, all habits. Yeah. So if you have something like that, you need to be constant with it. That way, later on, it'll actually help you out. It'll be like a tell. So if someone is if he starts lying about something and you start circling the glass of his drink, that's oh fuck, something's about to go wrong kind of thing. And it actually, it makes the character around. You want to treat every character like the story's about them.
That was my biggest
because if you
problem
don't, you're going to
with,
end up with flatter characters.
NBC, when they did the Constantine series. This show has completely run off the rails now, but I don't care. I love Constantine. It was actually really good, but the whole thing...
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch the show yet.
He didn't smoke in it. They alluded to the fact that he did, but they wouldn't really show him doing it.
Oh.
Because they didn't want to, promote cigarette use. Which is fine, but at the same time...
Oh, come on.
There's kind of... And it's not like he promotes it.
That's kind of his whole thing.
Make you cool, because he blatantly gets lung cancer at some point.
Well, in the movie, he literally gets really, really bad lung cancer. He's gonna die in the next year. Lung cancer.
Watch
So
how he gets rid of it in the comics.
yeah, in the comics, is it the same? How I haven't read the comics, to be honest, but how
comics,
I don't want to do any spoilers, but in the movie, is it similar to the way the cancer is removed in the movie?
That, but it's really that's the nice version, but similar.
Is it more metal?
Except he doesn't have skin at the time it happens. Yeah,
Oh,
the
man.
moral of the story is don't smoke and don't make deals with Nergal if you're John Constantine. Yeah.
Probably a good call.
Great series. I I think we've probably talked about everything we can about writing. Go buy Joe's new book, The Vacation Planet. If you're into comics, check out John Constantine. If you like werewolves that actually eat people instead of just do weird stuff with each other in the woods, which, hey, everyone's into what they're into. Check out my book, Wolfsbane, which is going on sale sometime in October. I think October 6th. I should probably know that. But,
But yeah, this has been Death Bear Writing. I'm your host, Joe Slater,
just
and
one book away from poverty.
this has been Jacob
Bye,
Payton.
guys.
Thank you so much for listening. Bye.